Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girl miss herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace. Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace episode, I think it's 64. I never remember, and it never says. I put
know.
in the title, then the title disappears where I can't see it when I go to the show, and I'm bad about the details. But welcome to our show. I believe it's 64. If not, it's somewhere in there, 63. 65.
It's after 60.
It's after 60. I think it's 64.
70 yet.
It's not 70 yet. No, we've got some big ones coming up in a short period of time, and that'll be exciting. We're going to figure out some things to do with those, but we're at 64, I believe, or somewhere in that area. And so we're going to talk tonight about one of the great movies of the summer, one of the blockbuster movies of the summer. But before we do that, I wanted to just go over a few things with people. Last week we missed some comments. Some comments did not show up through here. They were done, I think, on my personal Facebook site. So I'm wondering if that's, even though it's connected, I don't know if the comments are coming over. So I apologize to anybody watching that we missed your comments last week. I actually had one of my classmates while we were talking last week about how, my experience with a certain principal was like Ferris Bueller and all that. We had some comments on that. So we missed that. I apologize. We are trying to catch all the comments we can. I try to bring them all in as much as I can. And we got a comment already, and it's from one of our favorite people. Here's Ashley. Yeah, it's finally up, Ashley, because we never start right on time. We were talking about that. We get talking beforehand, and Facebook has like a 9-minute limit. And we don't always go all to 9 minutes, but we always have at least a couple of minutes that we're a little late going. So I apologize, Ashley.
Here's the thing, guys. Larry and I really like each other. We're really good friends, but we don't really talk because we're so busy in our lives. This is the only time we get to talk. So we either talk before the show or after the show, or most of the time, both.
Both, exactly. So we've got that going on. I did also want to mention, there's a thing going on with the GeekyKOOL website. And some of you may have noticed it's now showing that it's not secure once again. That's not true. It's secure. I'm getting it fixed. But in the process, I bought a thing last year to be able to provide a year of the SSL to verify we were secure and all that. And it was supposed to auto-renew. There were some problems.
Oh, it didn't.
And I went ahead and I went out and bought a lifetime one, so I won't have to mess with this ever again.
Thank God.
I know. But in the process of trying to get those converted over, I messed it up and locked it out for a week or something. So I got support helping me. And they're like, yeah, dude, you're locked out. So we'll be able to help you like on the 10th or 11th or whatever it was. So it's coming up. It's going to be fixed. Right now, if I go to post to Facebook or Twitter, it's not liking those posts. So if you notice our social media posts are way down, it's not because we've gone away. It's because we're having this issue. It will be resolved. It should be resolved early next week. So we'll be back up and going. We're not down. You can go read all the articles there. We've got a great article from our good buddy John, who wrote about Venom. He went and saw the new Venom movie, did a nice write-up on it.
I'm so jealous, John. Yeah. I want to see it.
Well, and hopefully soon. But we're going to talk about a movie tonight. But we've got that review up there. I actually posted about D&D this week and about using an online resource for that. And we'll be doing at least a couple weeks worth of D&D stuff going up. So we've got that going on. We've got a bunch of movie trailers up. We've got other articles up. just posted an article about the DC fandom. All that's on the site. So go check out the site. When it tells you it's not secure, just go ahead and click OK. It will be okay. And if you don't feel secure doing it, know that you can go check it out next week when it should be back. But I just wanted to announce.
We're not going to lose anything, though, this
time.
Well,
our site is not down. So the site is not down, unlike last year where the hosting site we had went down with a vicious attack and we lost articles. That's not happening this time. This is just the secure. It was sad because there were some great articles.
No, some of my best stuff got
lost. I know. I felt horrible.
At the time, I wasn't a journalist. I didn't realize to save all the stuff. I was just like, it's on the website.
Right.
Now I know to save it all.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. But now we're with a new site that's very secure, that hosts a lot of sites, like ours, or at least some websites, a lot of websites. So not like ours, because nobody's really like us. Because
we're very unique. I wish my goal and what I would really like is for more people to know about us, because I think that we offer something that's very different than most websites. Like, I love our friends that we always mention at the end of this and everything, but we actually I don't think any of them actually have a website. And the Nerd Informants have one, they're just never done anything with it.
Right.
But we have a website, and it's not just me and the professor. We have lots of contributors who write all kinds of things, even things that we don't necessarily like, they like, and they'll write about it and stuff like that. So you kind of get a little bit of everything.
We do. Talking about that, Ashley says this, because she's got an article she's getting ready to post, but she's going to wait on it. And that's okay, Ashley. Go ahead and wait. We will be, the site's fully up. It's just a matter of it's not working well with social media. And it gives you that funky message saying it's not secure. It's lying. It's secure. It's not been hacked. It's just a fluky thing that happened. So, but it won't happen again because we're on a lifetime membership, and I'll never have to mess with it again because even though I'm a little techie, because I am a little techie,
but
these things bug me because all I want to do when I get on the site is write and get content out there for everybody. I don't want to deal with the back stuff headaches. I deal with tech headaches all day long. I don't want to deal with that for what's supposed to be fun and awesome. So
right. That's why the last design change was me.
It was, and I appreciated that so much.
Which a new design change. I have plans for GeekyKOOL coming up in the new year. So
all right, we're looking forward to that. And I know one of our other contributors is wanting to help with some of that. So we're going to have some cool stuff. So I'm excited because if I can take that off my plate, that makes me a much happier editor and what do I call myself? The chief creative officer, because I like the creative stuff. Don't make me do all the busy work stuff.
So I think you're our creative director.
That's I like that. I went with CCO because Chief Creative Officer, because that's one of those nice little letter things you can put after. I'm like CEO, that's kind of whatever. I mean,
everybody does CEO.
Right, but CCO, I mean, that's kind of a cool title, and I'm creative, so that's what I like. Yeah, Ashley said she's going to post a list of her horror books for Halloween. That'll be a great list. I'm looking forward to reading that because I'm wondering how many Stephen King, how many classic horror. I'm just curious about this list now, so I want to read this because, and as I mentioned last week, I'm listening to an audiobook for Frankenstein. I've not gotten very far this week on it, but I'm real excited because it's so different than any of the movies. Yeah. And
no, it's really, really amazing. And the thing about Frankenstein is, if you think about how it was written, like, and the fact that it was just her telling the story, and it's an amazing book. And it was just so mind-boggling how it came about. So
right, exactly. Well, they even did a Doctor Who episode on that. Yeah. So we
I
got a little Doctor Who
Doctor
in there.
Who's.
Little Doctor Who. Right now she's got 4 books in mind. Well, of course, you're going to want to put one of your books on there, Ashley.
Yes.
Because they're awesome. So it needs to be on the list. So
I might do some Halloween stuff for the website. I'm trying to learn to balance my life.
Balance is good. Balance is very good. Yeah, it is. It is really 180 degrees away from the movie. Even though I'm thinking, the more I'm into this, I'm like, you could do a really cool movie based off of it.
If they took it and did a movie adaptation that it was very, very true to form, it would be amazing.
Right. I agree.
The issue is people have this thing in mind because of the older movies that it's just kind of like that's what they expect from a Frankenstein now, and it's not quite a Frankenstein's monster actually. And that's the other thing. It's like it's not Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein was
but if my thought with that is, yeah, it's Frankenstein's monster, but if you created something, it has your last name, so it's Frankenstein also.
I know, but it's not necessarily like the book kind of like lends itself more toward the doctor's stuff.
And this is exactly right. You are very right on that. The book is really interesting because it starts off with a letter from one person telling the story of somebody else, which is just an interesting way to write. It reminded me kind of Dracula, which I know it's the same kind of time period.
Yeah,
and the styles are very much the same. Jason asks what balance is. Yeah. it's the thing in front of kid.
So I actually wrote an editorial for the paper about budgeting your life and not budgeting. It's not about budgeting time or your work time or money. It's about budgeting the moments that you have in your life and trying to learn to balance like the things you have to do with the things you want to do. And I'm still learning, but I need to learn to de-stress my life a little bit.
Yes.
Because if not, I'm going to die of a heart attack by the time I'm 50. It's just how it's going to happen.
That's still 25 years away. But you'll get the balance. Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, so I'm just trying to learn. So I want to do some more things that are fun. It should be able to. Although today we got a blow at work again. One of my coworkers is leaving. Not Jason or Tim, but our sports writer is leaving. So. Larry, are you frozen? I don't know. Can anybody hear me?
Okay, I think we're back.
That was the weirdest thing.
No, we were having technical difficulties. The whole screen was spinning for me. I don't know why. Of course, I'm still on a loaner laptop, and that may be part of it. But
here's the thing, Larry. Like, you were just frozen. I was talking, and you were just like, and I was like,
yep. Frozen? Nope, I was frozen. You actually completely disappeared. It was just big spinning things.
Well, that's not good. I wonder if anybody saw that.
You're using my laptop.
Speaking of loaner laptops.
Speaking of loaner laptops, yes.
You use my laptop?
Yeah.
So yes.
She never wants to use it except for
when you're using it.
Right. Which hopefully back soon. My laptop. I've learned that Best Buy's Geek Squad is really good about typing up papers and sending things off rather than actually fixing things. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Speaking of balance, the movie we're going to talk about.
Well, before we do, we've got a couple other comments.
No more comments.
I know, which is great. We love your comments.
We love comments.
Watch Penny Dreadful. I have. It is really good. It is a really interesting show. And Jason says,
so
leaving sucks.
What you missed, Larry, I think you missed it, is I was saying that at work, one of our coworkers is leaving.
Right.
So our sports writer is taking another job.
Oh, goodness.
So now it's down from 4 people again to 3 in the newsroom. We run a newspaper with 3 reporters.
Well, it is a smaller paper, but you kind of need to.
I had nine articles in this one for this paper, which we do it twice a week. So for Saturday's paper, I had 9 articles.
Wow.
So, but yeah. So I just got home from work because I was like, I do the layout for the paper too. So because we don't have an editor, so there's that too. So
yeah. So that kind of speaks to the whole balance problem.
Yeah.
But
speaking of balance.
Yes, speaking of balance.
Our movie that we're going to be talking about is all about like balance.
It's true.
So I went and saw this. Shpoo and I went and seen this just a few weeks ago. We were a little late on the thing because time. But I really enjoyed it.
And the movie we're talking about, of course, is Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
So it's a Marvel movie, but it doesn't quite feel like a Marvel movie.
Right.
Do you feel like that too? Like it didn't quite feel like...
No, it did, but it reminded me there are a lot of Marvel movies that kind of, you've got the typical superhero ones, but you also have the ones that kind of go outside that norm and are kind of a different movie. Captain America and Winter Soldier actually felt more like a suspense spy action movie,
right,
in the Marvel universe. So Captain America, Black Widow, and Winter Soldier. You have Ant-Man really feels more like a family friendly kind of feel good kind of movie wrapped into superheroes.
Right.
And you got, of course, Doctor Strange is more of that mystical. It had parts of it that really felt kind of like the Matrix at points.
Yeah.
You've got Guardians of the Galaxy, which is very much a Star Wars-esque kind of movie with some comedy to it.
But even those have the way they're filmed
have
a very Marvel look to them.
Sure.
And this one just really didn't. And it's weird, but it's also the next step in the Marvel cinematic universe. So I don't know. And watching like the TV shows that they put out on Disney Plus, which I don't know if you've seen all of them. The last one dropped yesterday. Amazing, for the season anyway. But I feel like Marvel's going in a different direction cinematically. Like it doesn't quite feel the same. And I like that. I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't really know a lot about the superhero. Like he's not a superhero that you hear a lot about or anything like that, which I enjoyed also. And I really liked the aspects of history that they put into it.
Yep.
And the cultural references from the Asian culture, like the different cultural references. I thought that was really cool. I will say that I found his sister to be one of the most intriguing characters. I really wanted her story.
Well, and it looks like we're probably going to get more of her story yet to come.
Well, we're gonna get from now, like where it ended and going forward. But I want to know her story because he leaves her. Spoilers.
If you've not seen the movie yet, then one, what are you doing? Because it's been out for a month and a half. And two, pause this, come back later. Or 3, if you don't mind the spoilers, just hang out because because you'll figure it out. But yes, the sister, yes.
But so he goes off to do his mission and he just leaves her, which was the best thing for him.
Right.
And I liked that aspect because it's something that you don't see a lot of the times. People are, especially like in these movies, these superhero movies, that they never do what's best for them. I liked seeing someone be a little selfish, if that makes sense, by doing what was best mentally for them and getting them out. I felt bad because he did leave his sister and he promised he'd be back. But I want to know that story after he leaves her and before she becomes like this kingpin for this fighting ring. I want to know how she goes from the little girl crying like she doesn't want him to leave to this badass. I mean, she is a fierce fighter.
She is.
I mean, she kicks his
butt. Yeah, right.
He kicks his butt.
Right.
I just felt like I wanted more of her backstory between the time. Like, I understand it's about him, and I get that, but she's such a major character in this that I really wanted a little bit more about, other than I trained myself to fight.
Right.
Moments. I think that it would have given us more of an insight into why she does what she does at the end. Although that I saw coming as soon as she said I wanted to build my own empire.
Right.
But the comedy is great in this. It's not in your face comedy stupid. It's just like low key comedy. But no, I really liked it.
So I think because her character, I think, is going to definitely continue. I think her character is going to be a player in the future, not just in a sequel movie, even though I think that's probably very true. I think she's going to be a player in the MCU altogether.
Yeah.
I'm taking kind of over the 10 rings. So I think we're going to get that. I think either from a television show that's going to focus on that, or we're going to have it in a movie, like in the sequel movie, they're probably going to delve into that. But I think we're going to get more of her motivation. I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the father and kind of the background and the why he's the way he is and what he's doing, even though you despise kind of what he did to his children, but understanding the why and that he actually does love them and that it makes a really compelling villain.
Well, and that's the thing, and we've talked about this in several other shows when we've criticized villains and stuff. The best villains have, they believe that they are the heroes in the story. The best villains have a compelling story that you can kind of see their point of view. And if you can allow your viewer or your reader to see the villain's point of view and have compassion for them and empathy for them while still despising what they do, that is a very well-rounded character.
Right.
And the father is a very well-rounded character. Like, he starts off, of course, as this warlord, basically. He's 1,000 years old. So he has built this evil empire with brutality. And he meets the love of his life, and she teaches him how to balance that. And then he loses her. She dies because of his past.
Right.
And it's this guilt-ridden, anger-driven man who is just in the depths of grief. And does everything wrong. Like, he does everything wrong.
Right.
But he's in the depths of grief, and he's doing everything to avenge her, and then to hopefully bring her back. And like, you see, his motivation is this pure love for his wife.
Right.
And it's not a selfish love. He truly gave up everything to be with her.
Right.
she gave up everything to be with him too.
Right.
So it was a very pure love. And I really enjoyed the fact that they showed that they didn't just make him the bad guy to be the bad guy.
Right.
Even his children who hate him love him.
Right.
Because they know what he was like before their mother died and what he was like after their mother died. And the motivation is one that if you've ever loved someone and lost someone, whether I don't care if it's a spouse or it's a parent or something like that, you have those motivations of like, what can I wish I could bring them back.
Right.
And that's all his motivation is he feels so guilty about her death that he is trying in his mind, and he gets manipulated by a bigger bad.
Right. Yes.
So, no, I found him very compelling. I liked the dynamic between him and his wife, that balance.
Yeah. Yes.
But also,
you don't see that often in a lot of it, but it gives you enough to where you're like, okay.
Yeah. And then also basically the characterization of the children is you just automatically go, oh, the girl's going to be like the mother and the boy's going to be like the father, but it's actually quite reverse.
Right.
She's not nearly as so far as evil or as warlord like as her father, but he also had this power that she doesn't have. He had these rings that gave him immortality, but she doesn't have. And power corrupts. We all know that. If you've watched any of these shows ever, power corrupts. So if she got the rings, I think she would be corrupted just like her father was.
Right.
But no, I think that juxtaposition of the daughter being very power hungry and the son being very empathetic works well. They also are very yin and yang with each other, just like their parents are.
Yes.
But they can work together for a common goal, which is something I found unique, because she's not a good guy.
No, you don't know that till later. You kind of suspect it a little bit. She's running a fighting rink, but doesn't make you a bad guy. Just kind of maybe an anti-hero.
She's an anti-hero at the very least. She's an anti-hero.
Right.
She's not a hero. She's an anti-hero. But she's so compelling, and her story is so intriguing, and I just imagine being told your whole life that you don't matter because you're a girl.
Right.
Even before the mother died, not that the mother did that, but the father was always, you're a girl, you don't do these things.
Right.
Which is very cultural. And it's he's 1,000 years old in Asia. That he's old school.
Way old school. Anyway, so yes, I was gonna say now Shang-Chi, he was 16 when he went on this mission. So that when people start talking about, well, he left his sister and all this, he was being a little bit selfish, but he's a 16-year-old trying to escape a warlord father,
right?
And all that. So he was just trying to get away and survive.
But good for him, because he was too young to save her.
Right.
But he was old enough to save himself.
Right.
Now, do I think he should have tried to go back for her when he got older? Probably. But there's that fear of and if anybody's ever been in a toxic relationship, even if whether it be a marriage or parental or family or something like that, to go back is a fearful thing.
Right.
And he knew she eventually got out. He knew she wasn't living with her father. So he must have kept a little bit of tabs on her, because he knew the letter, you know what I mean? it kind of hinted that he knew she wasn't with their father.
Right, that she had escaped. Right.
Yes.
And that she had sent him a postcard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which wasn't.
Wasn't from her. So we've got a few comments. So let's bring these up here for us real quick. Ashley said that John saw it, but she didn't.
Oh,
so,
Ashley.
Ashley, it's worth seeing. It's very much worth seeing. Father's like Zuko from Avatar. I'm trying to remember Zuko.
Not exactly. That's the prince, the fire prince. Not exactly.
Okay.
He does a reverse. So he's like Zuko at the beginning. Then he meets the love of his life and he becomes like Zuko at the end. But then she dies and he reverts back and he becomes like Zuko's father. That makes sense? He's worse than ever because he's trying to bring her back to life. And it's all about power at that point.
It's all about power.
So Ashley, yes, I love that idea of it. Ashley, you should watch it just because the creatures in it are fabulous. You would love the creatures in this. I know you love like those like weird things and stuff like that. They take creatures from Asian mythology, and the village where the mother is from is basically, balance and harmony, but they're also protecting the world from a great evil, a soul-sucking evil. But they have like
and they're in a different realm, so to get to that realm is not easy. So.
No, the maze was amazing.
Yeah.
Like going through to try to get to the village, you have to know a certain way, but it was fun, and the character and the creatures were beautiful. Like we were watching it, and it was like the dragon. I was like, oh, it's like the never-ending story except 2.0. Like he very much got that luck dragon shape.
Yeah.
But
which is pretty typical for Asian dragons. Dragons
but
are
his
much
face
longer.
Was his face was just beautiful, and the CGI on it. I have a problem with CG. I don't like CG sometimes. Like I just don't. But this was done really well. There were a couple of times during the fight that looked a little wonky, but between the soul sucker and the dragon, but other than that, the CG is just amazing in this, and the creatures are just cute and fun. And speaking of creatures, my bearded dragon just jumped off his log over there. I said cute and fun, and he's like,
see what I can do. So we also have some comments here from John. John's joining us. Hey, John, glad you're there. Thank you for the review for Venom 2, because that's fantastic. We appreciate that. It's always great when you post. Yeah, you can go to GeekyKOOL.com, cool with a K, and you can read it there. Again, it will tell you that the site's not secure. That's not true.
Not true.
But go check it out. And John also mentions Venom 2. You only need to see. Yes, I do. Haven't had an opportunity. I was busy all last weekend and haven't had a chance this week. My son, who I didn't think was really old enough to see the first one until just recently. He's 12 and a half now. And so let him watch the first one, and he enjoyed it. So we're going to go see 2. We're also wanting to go see what's the big movie coming out this week? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. Oh, Bond, the James Bond movie. I know you won't go see that one, AJ, and that's okay. But Bond, my son really likes Bond also.
I am just not a Bond.
It's okay for you not to be a Bond. It's okay. And then Ashley says, it's not really like a Jim Henson movie.
No. No. I'm just saying it's like if they would have
the design of the dragon is more like
if they would have had CG and used that, it's like the dragon is like got that streamline, which is the Asian dragons anyway, but it's beautiful. There's no puppety thing at all in this movie. It's the creatures look very fantastical but also realistic, which is fun. Even even the little guy has no head. Can't think of what he's called.
Yes. No, that's a great question. I have to look it up.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Want to say that it was named Maurice or something.
Shmoo!
Let's see if I can find it real quick. Anyway,
you should find a picture of him. He's adorable. What was the little guy's name?
Morris.
It
is a Dejing.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out the little guy from that had no head that helped him get through the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out his name.
Morris.
He's cute. He's cute. He has no head, and yet he looks cuddly and cute.
And he's a mythical creature from the Oriental beliefs there. So it's actually a true creature, but we'll pull up that here in a moment. I found it fun because I've always loved kind of that black belt theater. Back when they would show the movies at like Saturday night at 1 a.m., I would stay up to watch those because I love a fun martial arts movie. Always loved the Bruce Lee movies. And then, you started getting some of these movies where they started adding some more fantasticalness to it. And where, you've got people with abilities to throw fireballs or to walk through trees and all of that. And it really kind of plays to a lot of that. So if you enjoy those kind of martial art movies,
the bus scene is just.
I was going to mention that. Yes, the bus scene is phenomenal. I mean, you get a modern America part, and then you get an Asia part with, especially with it being in this other realm, which is really cool.
Yeah, so you get a lot of historical and mythological cultural references from the Asian culture. Not just, and here's the thing, not just in the other realm, but when they go to find his sister and that building, and it's in a bamboo, basically scaffolding around the building that they use so beautifully in the fight sequence is amazing. The gymnastics of it, the fighting, the martial arts, it's beautifully choreographed. Like, it was such a wonderful scene to watch. But I think my favorite fight scene is literally the bus.
Yeah, the bus is a very phenomenal. In fact, his character becomes known as Bus Boys, what he's called there at one point because of that. But yes, that bus scene, because and basically his best friend since he moved to America, they've been buddies. Her family wants him to marry her, sort of thing. And we'll talk about that because the grandmother in the beginning was phenomenal. I love the grandmother in that. But yes, the whole bus scene, because it's this big long fight, and his best friend has no idea he can do this, and all of a sudden he drops into him. Right, because she thinks
she's the brash one. She's the one who thinks like, you can't pick on him, like. And then she just looks at him like,
where has this been? What are you doing? When did you learn that?
I like it because it's very speed. Like speed, because she loves to drive. I also like that they let her be like the one who loves to go fast and drive, and all of that.
And they're valets at an expensive hotel. So in the very beginning, she's like, "We're taking this one for a ride." So they jump in and go for a ride, which kind of had a little bit of Ferris Bueller feel to it. Where they take off with the car, but yes, she likes to go fast.
And then she gets. Yeah, I like that. Oh, there it is.
There's Morris. There he is.
That's so cute. I just want to cuddle him, and he has no face.
Well, and that right now has taken over. Baby Yoda is the stuffed plushing thing for the new holiday season. So get your Morris before they go sold out, because I think Disney learned that.
I still like Grogu.
Roku is great. Having both is a great way to go. But they're going to sell out though. Get these for your kids or whoever is into it now. because we're going to sell. But they are awesome. But yeah, that bus scene, as we're going back to that. So you've got him fighting multiple guys, and you got him fighting, and I forget the character's name is, that basically has a sword for an arm, pops out the sword.
What is it? Razor Fist.
Razor Fist. That's right, because it's on his Jeep or whatever it is.
Yes.
Then it makes me think of Laserface.
Right.
Laserface.
Laserface. So what I also liked about the bus scene is that he's not the only one who gets to be a hero.
Right.
He is a normal, like, Asian girl whose parents want her to do something more with her life, and all she wants to do is have fun and drive. And yet she gets to showcase her abilities to drive.
He does.
And save people's lives. Because, yes, he's fighting these people, but he doesn't really save anybody's life.
Well, like, except for he had people jump from the one side of the bus to the other.
But without her, the bus would have.
Well, yeah, because in what we're not telling you is the bus driver gets knocked out. And again, if you're watching this, these are the spoilers. It's going to happen. The bus driver gets knocked out. Nobody's driving. Very much, as you said, very Speed-esque.
Oh yes, it's very much.
She takes over and brings the bus to somewhat of a stop.
Except the only difference between it and Speed is Sandra Bullock's character did not want to drive that bus.
Right.
She was like, "Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna drive." Yeah. She's a fun character.
She is. She's so, and it's a good balance. And again, a good balance between him giving to him because she's the one who's in awe of everything.
Right.
And I like that. Sometimes they force those characters on us in movies to they push the plot forward for us. But I felt like she was seeing things for the first time with us.
Right.
Because she became a part of like our theater.
She represented the audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was in the movie as the audience. Right. So I think that was a unique take. Plus she's fun. She speaks her mind. She doesn't like backtrack on anything. She's very blunt. And you know where you stand with her.
Right.
All the time.
All the time. And she gets to be a hero at the very end. Also, I mean, a huge part of the hero.
She is the hero at the very end.
Yeah.
I like that because then that also, I like the way that Disney did that and Marvel did that because it makes us believe that we can be heroes. Because she was like us at the beginning. She's just like this person who's watching this all unfold. And by the end of it, she is literally the one who takes the shot and is the reason that the Soul Sucker has not escaped and destroyed our universe.
Right.
Not him. I mean, he helps, but without her doing that, it wouldn't have happened.
And she needed him to do some things after she did that to finish things off. But she was a huge part of what happened there. Without her, and they even make reference to the end. Now, I love at the beginning and the end, they show them sitting as best friends. They're talking to another couple out to dinner. Yes. And the other couple is all happy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, are you still working at the... are you still parking cars? Oh, well, da, 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 da. And then at the end, you go back to the same group.
Yeah, I love it when she goes, when are you guys going to grow up and do something important?
Right.
And then they come back and they tell her this story like, we saved the world.
And of course, doesn't believe her at all until Wong from Doctor Strange comes in. It's like, hey.
You too.
And then
you.
The jaws dropping on their friends. That was beautiful. You're like, oh, thank you for shutting them up.
Right. And the thing is, and I think, again, one of the best things about some superheroes, not all superheroes, because like a Tony Stark is like this rich guy who gets to be a superhero because he's a rich guy. But the thing that I love, and the reason I love the superheroes I love, is because you can see yourself in them.
Yes.
And how many times have you been out with somebody and you're describing your life? And if you haven't seen them in a long time, how many times do you get that like judgmental look?
Yes, right.
Like, oh, You're still doing that?
Ooh.
Or, oh,
It's
well,
okay. Let me
I did
patronize
this.
you.
Yes, it's very patronizing.
Yes.
And they came back with this story, this great story. Now, if my friends told me that they got these magic rings and saved the world and rode a dragon and shot a soul sucker and with an arrow and all this stuff, I probably wouldn't believe it.
Right. Exactly. But we don't live in a world with superheroes.
No.
We don't live in a world that's been invaded by aliens more than once. We don't live in a world that, has had a android basically try to drop a huge section of the world. I mean, we've seen these things. We've seen these outrageous, crazy things if you live in the MCU. So things happen. Now, I'm sure you got people that are making stuff up because other people see stuff like this all the time. But I mean, for us, there's no thing to connect to where you're like, hey.
My only critique of that scene is the fact that he is busboy.
Yeah.
Which has gone viral. Are you telling me their friends haven't seen this viral video? Like, that's very unlikely. So if you saw your friend fighting a guy with a sword for a hand on a speeding bus, kicking butt with against multiple guys, including a guy who could cut a bus in half with his hand or with his sword.
Right.
I think I would believe him.
Right. Well, now, it's very possible that even though it's gone viral, it's only trending with certain groups. And it's going to trend with the Fight Club group. It's going to trend with, I mean, if I'm ultra important and my day job is important, I'm probably busy doing other things to promote myself rather than watching these kind of videos because, that's just made up.
I'm sorry. I don't believe that. I believe that we are a social media driven society that would definitely have seen something.
Now, if their friends were 50, probably haven't seen it.
Right, but they're like 20 something. They're freaking on TikTok all the time.
Okay, I give you that. I'm just saying.
So that was
if for me, I'd be like, what happened?
Is
that on MySpace somewhere? I don't know.
That was my only thing with that.
No, I get that.
Hold on just a minute. I'll still be here. I'm just going to mute myself for a minute. I got to tell him something.
Okay. So the other thing interesting, AJ, is that, I'm going to let you go ahead and do your talking, and I'll just say this, and hopefully you'll hear it also. But interestingly, some people complained about this movie with the comedy in it, and it felt like the comedy was too much. I felt like the comedy was perfect for him. You kind of mentioned how it didn't take things over the top, but there are people that have complained about it. In fact, one of my friends, who I rarely agree with on movies, he completely ripped it for the comedy. Made a statement that when did Marvel get in the business of making comedies? They need to make good superhero movies. Of course, the same guy who also loves Batman v Superman. Thinks that's one of the greatest movies ever. So we don't really see eye to eye on that. But I thought the comedy was great. I felt like it was well balanced. It added that levity to things. So I just wanted to mention that I think the comedy is really good. Along with that, I also you got the really cool animals and everything else with the movie, but it really brings in that Oriental culture, especially in the States. We were talking a little bit about his best friend's family, how they love him and they want him to marry her, but that's not really on their mind. You've got the whole this seat's saved for her because it's the day to celebrate the dead. So the seat is saved for the grandmother's husband that's no longer with them, which that was a really cool reference. They brought that in. It was just a very natural thing. And I appreciate it. It was just so natural. It was just there. He sits in the seat. No, you can't sit there. And, and then it also, I thought that they really had that whole Dr. and Donna feel to them, where they're
Yes.
so good friends, there never could be anything beyond. But you can see that maybe something happens eventually. But at least right now, they're like, well, we're too close to friends for anything to happen.
The thing is I think it's very much, I see it going somewhere.
You could.
But I don't know if it'll ever be like romantic.
Right.
That makes sense. Like,
no.
Like they are. I love that they're platonic friends.
Right.
And
which is a nice, after every movie seems to have to shoehorn a romance in there somewhere, it's nice to see we're going to have these guys, but we're not going to make it a romantic relationship. We're just going to be friends. Wow, there we go.
Well, and the thing is like, you can have, I think it shows that you can have like soulmates and people who balance you and your kind of like your person, if that makes sense. Your person, and your person does not have to be a romantic person. Your person could be your best friend.
Right.
It would have been, you know, a buddy movie, like a buddy movie, like the cops movies and stuff like that. If it wasn't for the fact that she's a girl and he's a guy, it has that buddy movie feel.
It does have that feel.
But because she's a girl and a guy, it's not literally technically considered that, but I think it should be.
Right.
Because they're very much opposite of each other. They're very much help each other become better people.
Right.
And they probably have a stronger relationship than most couples who are together.
Right.
Because the trust is there.
Right.
Like, he's like, I got to go find my sister and travel all over, like clear across the world. And she's like, I'll go with you.
Right. Are you kidding? Of course I'm going.
Right.
What else am I doing? So parking cars, whatever, let's go.
Yeah. And there's no, there was never a moment where he was like, oh no, you can't go.
Right.
There's never a moment where she's like, I shouldn't go. It's just we're together. We're a team. We do this.
Right.
And
it was never that she was the helpless female either, which I
appreciated. Like the closest it came to her being the helpless female is in the fight on place,
the tower. Yeah.
The tower. Because they have people coming to kill them.
Right.
And she, at this point, like, she learns to fight. She learns to shoot arrows, which she's really amazing at, and she's a natural at it. So she learns archery. But at this point, she doesn't have fighting skills.
Right.
And the people who are coming after them are trained assassins.
Right.
So he doesn't want to put her in danger. It is nothing to do with her being like a female who needs to be saved.
Right.
It is that she doesn't have the skill set to fight them.
Right.
Once she learns the skill set, you don't have any part of you that goes, oh, he would still have said, no, go off. No, he would have been like, come fight with me.
Right.
He wants to protect her, but not in a like, oh, I have to protect the weak female, but in a, you don't have the skill sets to fight these people.
Well, and that would be the same if I was with him.
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, I'm out of here because I can't beat these guys. You're going to have to kick their butt.
Right.
Not because I'm weak. It's just because I don't have those skills. Right.
Exactly. And he knows that. She has seen him fight. She knows that she cannot fight at that level.
Right.
She knows that the guys who came after them in the bus had this higher level of skill set for fighting than she does. It's the smart thing to do. It was never a weak woman thing to do. And I like that because yes, she left, or she ran a little bit. She takes off, like he tells her go.
Right.
And
he's trying to run too. So he's trying to get away. So it's not like he's just sitting her off and he's going to try to take him. He's trying just to provide enough of cover for them both to get away.
Exactly. And And she does it, but it's not in this like, you don't ever feel like she's like, oh, save me. It's like, dude, I can't fight them. I'm out of here. Which is the smart thing to do.
Right.
It's like the horror movies when you always watch the horror movies and they run upstairs. Why are you freaking running upstairs? You run out the front door. I mean, if a serial killer is after me, I don't run upstairs. I run out the front door.
Hide behind the rows of chainsaws.
Do you know what I mean? Like they always have these women do these stupid things, and she does.
On that commercial where they're like, "Well, let's hide here. Let's hide behind the road. Let's get in the running car." That's crazy. We can't do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I felt like it was a very honest kind of place for her to be at, and it wasn't like she never once says save me.
Right.
She never once does that. Like she never once, you don't ever feel like she needs him to protect her. She just knows her limitations and she's not stupid.
Right. Right. Exactly. As we all hopefully would be in this sort of situation.
Right. I have a bunch of trained martial arts assassins trying to come for me and my best friend. He knows how to fight. I don't. I'm leaving.
Right. Ashley says this, and actually that's where I was going. Was that GeekyKOOL commercial? With the running car and the hiding behind the chainsaws. Hide behind the chainsaws. And the killer's just shaking his head. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah.
And that's the thing is, and that's, I think what they didn't do with her, even though she ran. It's like one of the things I love about Doctor Who is that he tells his companions, run.
Right.
Like there are just points in life when you're in a bad situation that you don't stand and fight. You run. And that's okay.
It
doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart.
Hey, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
It's okay to be late. It's all right. We're happy to have you here.
Yay.
So, yay. So we do. We're glad you're here, Ray. So just wanted you to know, we see you there. You are seen and appreciated. So, but no, yeah, now one of the moments in this movie is when the father, who's also known as the Mandalorian, even though they make fun of that, which, I mean, he talks about how, named after chicken or whatever.
The Mandarin.
The Mandarin. So he takes both lockets, one from each kid. He captures both of them, takes them and puts them in, what was it? It was a picture, right? For the eyes of the dragon. And then all of a sudden this big water thing goes flushing out. And then you get the map of how to get there.
Yeah.
That was an amazing scene. You didn't know. And then it's really funny because, you have him capturing both of them at the same place, at the fighting rink. You have the brother and the sister and also his friend. And he captures them. But he brings them back and sits them down for dinner, and almost kind of a James Bond-esque sit down for dinner sort of thing. But it's not, because it's really, I brought you here because your mother's calling me.
Right.
And I love you. I know that we've had problems, but, I want to unite our family again. And that actually really kind of reveals kind of where the basis for the character is. He's really trying to do what he thinks is the right thing and reunite his family by bringing his wife back. Now, of course, we know that's hokey, that wasn't real. But he didn't know that. And, and that scene with that water was just an amazing special effect. It was beautiful. It's something you would see in a martial arts movie with the mystical stuff, but not done it nearly as well. It was,
and it was very telling because, again, Asian culture, you have all of your elements working, and water bends, but it's strong, and it's very much when the mother does her fighting stance, it's very much like if you watched Avatar or The Last Airbender, the cartoon, not the movie, the water fighters are very like this in their movement, and that's the mother. She has a very water movement.
Right.
And I thought it was really beautiful that they put the two pendants in there and in the eyes of the dragon. And this water came, but it wasn't like what you expect. The water had its own dance and its own movement.
Good.
In such a beautiful way that was so well done. And it showed, the path to get to the village. So we've talked about the father. The mother is also, she's a mystic. She comes from this realm. She comes from the realm that we talked about with the magical, mythical creatures. She was born. Yep. She was born there. They protect this, our realm from the soul sucker and all the little things that could have destroyed us. They have walled it up, and the dragon has helped fight that, and they live in this village in harmony, but it's facing this wall where the soul sucker is always trying to get out, and he is the one who's calling to the father and stuff. But the mother comes from this place, and so she is very much balanced. And when the water came down, I just thought it was beautiful because it was like the movements of her fighting.
It was.
And it was just such a poetic thing. The father, he's just heartbroken. Yes. And I also like...
Still, I mean, after all this time, because the mom has been dead for 15 years or something, 20 years, something like that. So, and he's still heartbroken.
Yeah. And I also like that it looks like teardrops falling.
Yes.
I think that was very symbolic of the grief that they, not just him, but they were all feeling.
Right.
Like they haven't healed. None of them have healed from it. The children watched the mother die because the father wasn't home. The father feels grief and anger because he wasn't there to protect his wife. He's angry at the boy because he thought he should do more, but this is a little boy. It wasn't really, his mother told him to go. He went. Again, a thing which I think that they did so well was that people weren't putting themselves in danger for a reason, like without a reason.
Right.
Because a lot of the times you watch these shows, these movies, and they're like, they put themselves in these dangerous situations without having a reason to be in those dangerous situations.
Just because.
Yeah. But he tells him to go, and he sits at the window and watches her try to fight these men and die.
Right.
So when the water comes, water's a cleansing. It's a refocus. It's powerful. It looked like tears falling, but not falling, like being in permanent stasis for a moment, like which felt to me like a translation into their grief. Their grief is just there.
Right.
So I look at things weird though. Like
I agree completely. I knew that was very symbolic.
Yeah.
It was beautiful and how it showed the path. So let's talk a little bit about a character that's revealed shortly thereafter. Because there's a character from Iron Man 3 that makes an appearance in this movie who had pretended to be the Mandarin back in Iron Man 3. His character's name is Trevor. I've got it here somewhere.
Slattery.
That's right, Trevor Slattery, and basically he's an actor. That's what he's known for, is acting. So he took on this character role in and one of the biggest surprises of an MC movie was that reveal in Iron Man 3, because that really shocked me. I was like, I did not see that coming at all. So I was surprised by that, but I was disappointed that we ain't going to see the real Mandarin, and now we do. We do get to see him in hand here.
There was actually it was a little short. MCU short called All Hail the King. That was about him in prison.
Yep.
And a guy pulls him aside. It shows that he's basically a member of the Ten Rings, saying that the guy that he was portraying is real and would like to meet him.
Right.
So him showing up in that for me wasn't quite a surprise. But
no, it wasn't a surprise necessarily, other than we have not visited that in forever. In fact, that short is on Disney Plus. So if anybody wants to check that out, but that is there that you can check that out and see what actually happened to him, and that basically he broke out of jail, but to go be basically a court jester for the 10 Rings. So basically, is what's happened.
Well, because he's funny.
He's very funny.
He becomes friends with Morris. Thank God, because Morris is from that realm, and Morris is in prison too.
And my favorite part was like, do you see Morris? Oh, thank God. I thought I was going crazy.
Right? He thinks it's his imaginary friend.
And this is Ben Kingsley, by the way, one of the great actors of our time, playing this role so well, this comedian. And his character takes over being the comical relief. And again, not over. I don't know if you heard when I was talking while you were off, but the the comedy in this, I didn't think it was over the top, but there are people that thought it was, and that made those comments, and I just roll my eyes with that. But
I mean, parts of it were, but you got to think it wasn't over the top for the characters themselves.
Right.
So it played. Here's the thing: I don't like it when they try to make a character funny who shouldn't be funny.
Right.
That makes sense. Like it's forced. Ben's character is an overdramatic actor who has been imprisoned and who thinks he has seen this imaginary animal for since Iron Man 3.
Right.
Okay. And he's taken out of his cell only to perform for.
Right, because he likes my version of Hamlet.
Right, one-man Hamlet. Okay, it's hilarious. And so all of this is like he thinks he's gone crazy. Like that's the point of this is when he's like, you see Morris too. Like he has thought for years that he had gone crazy.
Yeah.
He sees this animal that has no face and he can talk to it. Like he can understand it, which I'm sure he couldn't when it first happened, when they first met. But after years and years, he understands it.
Telepathic connection of some sort. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and Morris actually helps him find the way.
Without Morris, they wouldn't have found the valley.
Right. Exactly.
Because Morris is from there. And when I talked about the maze earlier, it's a forest that changes and shifts and will devour you if you are trying to go through it and you take the wrong turn.
Right. Or it pushes you off the edge of the cliff. Which we see early on.
All kinds of things. Just and crushes you. Like it's alive. And that's very much remnant of Earth.
Yes.
On the as we're talking about the ancient elements of Asia and stuff is Earth element. It's the Earth is living and it's a living, breathing thing, and this is very much a living, breathing thing. And this is in our realm, but when you enter it, but you as you go in just a little bit, you then enter their realm, and it's a pathway, but you have to go a certain way. I also love that without Morris, and without Ben Kingsley's character, you couldn't get through this because they're telling them their directions, but you also couldn't get through it without his friend.
Right.
Because her driving skills, again, come in handy for this. She is the reason they make it through. Again, she is the hero of this. Like, there was something in this scene, though, when they're going through the maze after they escaped the prison from their dad with Ben Kingsley and Morris. And they get into Razorhand's Jeep and everything. And they have a fight scene while the car is moving. That's really cool and stuff. But there was something that really bothered me. And it's a consistency thing. The windows get broke out during the fight. And when they get to the forest, before they even start going through the forest, the windows are back.
Oh, yeah. I did not notice that. That's
I didn't like that because it bothered me.
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
But especially her window, his sister's window, because they made a point of it got broke out. She broke it out to fight. Like she fought with
right.
And it's back.
It's self-healing.
It's a magical Jeep.
Well, we are talking about driving through a forest of bamboo that moves. So,
and if the window would have been back, like after they drove through, I would be like, okay. But the window is back before they get there. That was my issue because it's still in our world.
No, I get that. No, that's a good point. That's something that I didn't catch when I saw it. So
yeah, you have to watch it again.
Well, I do need to watch it again. I agree. Now talking about Trevor's character, there's a scene during the big fight at the end where people are getting killed right and left, and ultimately you flash over to Trevor, and he's laying face down on the ground, and you're like, "Oh no, you killed!"
Morris gets so upset.
He does. He comes over, and it's almost like he's a dog licking him, but not quite. And then Trevor looks over at him, and is like, "Shh, play dead."
And Morris rolls over, like, I love that.
Awesome.
Because again, in real life, if you have at this point, you have the dad, his army is there because they made it through the maze as well, and they're in this village, and so they're fighting the mother's family and her tribe, basically,
right.
Because he is convinced that she is behind this wall that the soul sucker is behind. He is convinced that they have stolen her away from him and somehow captured her soul behind this wall, and he's got to save her. So it's all about him saving the love of his life.
Right, it is. It is.
But so his army is there, and so they're fighting. And so you have very much a Fire Nation style and a water style fighting.
Right.
But if you're there and you have no fighting skills, because Trevor has no fighting skills.
And knows that, yeah.
What do? You play dead. If you're an actor, you just play dead. It's really realistic. I know
it fits perfect.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, that was too much comedy put in there," and that was like, "Why did they do that?" Because if you have no, again, his best friend didn't have fighting skills, so she left because she knew realistically, if I try to fight these guys, I die.
Right.
Trevor is the same way. He knows these guys. He's been captured by them for years and has lived under that, like in a cell. And only come out for entertainment. So he knows them.
Right.
He knows they're vicious, trained killers.
Right.
He's not going to like fight. He has no skills. What is his skill? I can act. I'm going to act dead. It makes sense.
It's self-saving there. Save myself. Everybody else may be dead. I'm going to survive this somehow. So,
right.
Self-preservation at its best with an actor.
Yes.
But that scene with Morris is just perfect. So
Morris I love it because Morris, like he doesn't even have this is the thing I love about Morris. He doesn't even have a face.
Right.
Like no face, but somehow he emotes emotions.
He does.
Because he's like, you can see him like go like, okay, yeah. And then he's just like, he pretends to be dead too. It's beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. Now I wanted to ask about your thoughts about the rings. In the comic book, the rings are actually on the fingers, with 5 on each hand, and they give you various abilities depending on the ring. They made an adaptation to that because they were like, if you do that, that's too much like the Infinity Stones. Right. So we don't want it to be too much like the Infinity Stones. So they looked at those kind of arm bracer kind of rings, and which is a very martial arts look anyway. Yeah. And went with that. And, they're not so much about individual ring powers, but being used together to do various things. What were your thoughts on that? Did you like that change? Did you? I
did. I think it worked better cinematically.
Yeah.
Like, because the bracelets, especially when he and his dad are fighting against the wall, because the dad breaks through while his army is fighting his wife's family and tribe. He breaks through and he goes to the wall where the soul sucker's behind it, and he's got the rings, and he's the only person in our realm who could do it, because he's got, like, that's what they say anyway, because he's got the rings and the power. And so he's trying to break, because he thinks his wife is behind there.
Right.
His son comes over and is like, no, like, she's not there, and he tries to like explain it, and he's like, no, I hear her calling to me, which in itself is a form of torture that I don't think people realize. Like, imagine losing the love of your life, and years later you hear them calling, help me, help me, help me. They're
right.
It's a form of torture. And
yes.
So he is a tortured soul. And when they fight, I think if it would have just been the rings, it would have been like brass knuckles. Like, I mean, like, it would have not. But I love that he can punch and the rings fly off, and you can control where they go. And they do what you want them to do. And I think that was a really cool thing. I also think that when he, is fighting his dad, and he realizes that if he does what his mom taught him,
right,
which is about balance and about like accepting your own power and being your own person, and he then realizes who he is, he can then control the rings. And I think that tug of war was such a fascinating thing with the bigger bracelet ring.
Right.
I think it would have been
and then he was able to take part of them.
Right.
By doing that and using part of that. It was very nice visually. I liked it. At first I wasn't sure, because I'm like, well, because I'm a traditional Marvel guy. And the Mandarin in the comics is not the father of Shang-Chi.
Right.
So that was a change, but the character was similar. And the character is no longer socially accepted, because it's a very old character that's very stereotypical in a bad way.
Right.
So of who Shang-Chi's father was. So
I think they wrote it. I think they updated him in a way that kept true to the character of the Mandarin.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yes.
Which they don't always do correctly when they update these characters, but I think they did it. I also think having him be the father gave the story a unique twist, because they still love their father. It's not like they're fighting like an unknown evil person. They're fighting their father, who they know is grief stricken. They know is crazy, driven crazy from this torture. Like, once they get to the village, and the village explains that this is the soul sucker, and that's what they do. It calls to people who it thinks can break them free. And once they understand this, I think they both, him and his sister, I think, have a goal of like trying to explain that as much as possible. I think that she would prefer her father to be dead. I think he would prefer his father to be alive and well, like mentally well. But it just doesn't happen that way. But no, I think the rings being on, also the visual of like them, like going through the air and being manipulated by the different movements, was way more powerful than I think little rings would have been.
Right.
It's also at the very end, when he has to fight the soul sucker. Like, I think it was a more powerful visual for that as well.
I agree. And for people that haven't seen it, the soul sucker is a giant kaiju, almost
it's like a demon bat from hell.
Yeah, very much.
I mean, that's the only, it's not really, but it's like, if you thought of a kaiju demon bat, who was escaping hell, and who would like, it has these little bats that come out first, and they suck the souls out of people, and then they feed that to the giant one.
Gets fed, right.
And that's what gives him his power. By the time the father has broke through these little pieces and these little things have come out, and they are now the two armies are fighting, and these bats are coming and sucking the souls out of the soldiers. And they actually, I also like this part where the bad army and the good army are like, yeah, we need to fight together.
Right. Yeah, we've got to fight this good. And there was the one scene like, I don't know, and then like one of them gets taken, like, okay, yeah, let's fight together.
Yeah, and I think that's also something that wouldn't have like. I just don't see you seeing a Hydra like army fighting with Captain America at any.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And this was more realistic. It's like, okay, we don't like each other, and okay, we're trained to kill each other. More on the Ten Rings army side, kill each other, but there's a bigger threat. So we
got to survive this before we can take care of that. Right.
Exactly. I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. Because I felt like it was realistic. Like even if you have an enemy, somebody you hate, if it gets to a point where it's like there's a bigger threat, you're going to band together, even if you don't trust each other, to face the bigger threat.
Right. Exactly.
And I feel like they don't do that in a lot of superhero movies. Like if you're on the bad team, you're always on the bad team.
Right.
So I like that aspect of it.
No, I did too. I thought that was a really good aspect of it. Yeah, the end fights are pretty cool fight, especially against the giant bat. And by the way, just wanted to point this out. It's not a cute bat like Kitty Bat, which is a wonderful children's book that you can find.
With illustrations by Ashley.
By Ashley. You can go check that out. I believe we've got information on GeekyKOOL about that. You need to check that out. It's a great Halloween gift for kids that you can buy right now.
But this bat's not cute like.
But this bat's not cute like Bat Kitty. No. Kitty Bat. I said that wrong. I said it back. Kitty Bat. So check out Kitty Bat. So anyway, go ahead.
Sorry, but the fight. Also, there's a dragon in the water next to the village that comes out, and he doesn't. The thing is he doesn't come out until the soul sucker is getting out. Like he doesn't interfere in the human fight.
Right.
Like he doesn't. He interferes when the threat is there. The
threat for the realm. Right. Yes. And not until Shang-Chi goes down, because he's basically knocked down into the water by his father and ends up, just happens to be there, and there's the dragon. Of course, it's all how it's supposed to be.
I like that both him and his sister ride the dragon and fight from the dragon, and it's not just him.
I agree.
Because I felt like that at this point. Again, this whole movie is about balance, and they are the yin and yang. They are the father and the mother, like in their children. And without that balance, I don't think they would have succeeded. They had to have both. Right. Like if the father and the mother had joined forces, they probably could have done it years ago and stuff like that. Like it had to have both of them. And then, but even having both of them, you had to have an extra element that wasn't there, and that's his friend. When they get to the village, she's like, I don't know how to do anything, and the aunt, the mother's sister, is there, and she's like kind of one of the tribal leaders, and she's like, basically she's like, oh well, it's because you keep giving up, like you don't stick with anything,
right?
So how are you going to succeed at anything if you don't stick with anything,
right?
And so the little old lady comes and takes her, like she's got arrows, and she thinks she's just helping carry the arrows, and it turns out that the little lady's like, no, shoot, and she's a good shot,
right?
Like a natural, but they don't want her to fight yet because she's not got training, but she at this point is where she's not that weak female who needs to be saved, because she's like, I want to fight with them. And they're like, no, you can't. And it gets to the point where she's like, no, screw this. I'm going to go fight with them.
Right.
She has some skill now.
I like the part where he's just like, don't die.
Oh, yeah. She's like, because the guy who taught her how to shoot, when she's like, no, I'm going to go fight with them. I'm going to go out there. And the guy who taught her how to shoot just looks at her and goes, don't die.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like,
don't die. Right. Yeah.
And then she goes out and, you know, she is standing there and she sees her best friend and his sister, who she knows her best friend loves, even though she just met her. And I think she thinks she's a little crazy. But
and she is. She's right.
Up on this dragon fighting this giant bat creature thing, who has these little bats sucking the souls out of people. And she just she aims her arrow and she shoots, and without that shot they wouldn't have succeeded. So I like that her full circle is that she feels like she's useless. That's why that's why she does ballet, because she feels like she doesn't have any talent.
Right. And
then she gets trained for a very short time, but has a natural talent for shooting arrows. And then she takes that moment and goes, you know what, I can do this. Right. And she shoots. And I really enjoyed that arc of hers, because then now I don't think will give up as much.
Right. Exactly. Well, now she's had success. She knows success.
Right. And I know she's not bragging. She's like, we killed a soul sucker. Like,
we did, yeah. With help of a dragon and all this. You're like,
I shot an arrow while he was riding a dragon.
It's great. I love that. I love that interaction. I loved all of that. Yeah. And of course, at the end, we find out that the sisters basically was supposed to be going to shut down the Ten Rings organization. And instead, she's just kind of changing it and bringing women in, because the reason she could never be trained was that the father wouldn't allow women in there. And now women are in there. So she's taking over.
And there's a foreshadowing to this part when she has the fight club.
Yeah.
And he's like, why would you do this? Like, why would you fight? Like, because he has, since he left his father, has avoided fighting. Like, to the point that his best friend thinks he's a weakling. Like, she does.
That's true.
And she's like, I want my own empire.
Right.
So their father is dead. He dies. He gets his soul sucked.
He sacrifices himself.
He does.
He to try to help once he realizes that he was mistaken. So he's redeeming himself at the end. Yep.
And so he dies, and she goes and she's supposed, like, they're talking, and they're talking to their friends that they're telling the story to, and they're like, oh, well, I've never heard you talk about a sister. Where is this imaginary sister and stuff? And they're like, oh, she's shutting down like the 10 rings. And then it goes to her like in one of the scenes, and she's not shutting it down.
No.
She's continuing it, and that sets her up to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
But I also think that she could be redeemable like the father.
Right.
And so that's a good bad guy. That's a good bad guy when you can have him redeemable.
I agree. But will she want to be? And it's interesting because, basically when Shang-Chi, after the mom died, the father went to basically training him to be an assassin. And concentrating, being beat, being all the stuff to get him tough enough to do this, where the sister wasn't allowed to train, but that's really what she wanted. He never wanted that. She did. She wasn't allowed to be trained, and she would train herself in a room. And I love her chain, by the way, which is a very much an Oriental weapon. The chain with the hook on the end.
Yeah.
And
and she practiced with ribbon, and she practiced with, like, she would pick up weapons when they would drop them, and she would go in her room and she would watch her brother being trained, and then she would emulate it. And she trained herself. And that's the thing that I was like, I want to know more of her story.
Right.
Because she trained herself. And then after he left, the father just treated her like nothing. I mean, you see that in her room when they go back and the father has dinner waiting for them and stuff. She goes to her room, and you can see that. You can see that, like, little girl lost kind of thing.
Yes.
But she's
Yes.
also very, she wanted, if he would have trained her to be the assassin instead of her brother, she would have succeeded in the task and come back.
Would have. Come back proud.
The brother, and that's why I said he is like the mother, that tranquil and like doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to be like that, but she does, and she enjoys the power. So I liked it.
I did too. I thought it brought out a lot of great aspects of great martial art movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and some other ones. Brought it into the Marvel Universe with a character that's not been seen a whole lot, who honestly, whose heyday was in the 70s when, as the song says, where everybody was kung fu fighting, because in all the movies and everything else, that was a big craze in the 70s. Late 60s, early 70s was kung fu fighting, karate. Karate came back in the 80s with the Karate Kid, but never quite that same frenzy pitch. I mean, if you had a cop hero in the 70s, they had to know martial arts along with
I mean, one of the number one TV shows was Kung Fu.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Carradine walking through the Wild West without a gun and kicking people's butts. Like, that was like one of the best, or one of the top TV shows.
It certainly was.
And it came back in the 90s. Like, they had like that little TV show. But yes, this very much had remnants of that, but without, like I said, it felt, I know it's a Marvel movie, but it didn't quite, the cinematic view of it was different than the Marvel movies of the past. But the TV shows that they've been putting on Disney Plus have a different cinematic view as well.
Right.
And so I think that's where we're going with the movies, with the
right. It'll have a different feel and look to it. I agree.
What?
They announced today that Agatha Harkness is getting her.
What? Show. I was at work. I didn't hear this news. Shmoo just told me this news.
I heard something, but I did not see that announcement. So, all right. Well, that will have to be something we get up on GeekyKOOL about that, and make sure to go there, even though it says not to.
Where'd you see it?
It's all over.
It's all over, apparently.
Yeah. So we'll go check that out, and we'll get that posted.
As long as they call it was Agatha all along.
And use the theme song.
Right? Yeah. The theme song has to be used. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. So that's what we got for the movie. We both really liked it. We thought it was a good fun movie. It's one of the, I think it's still the top grossing movie of 2021. It took off like a shot. We've got some other Marvel movies coming out. We've got Venom, which is now a Marvel movie. That one just came out. We do have the review from John up. We've got the Eternals coming up.
Spoiler credit scene officially tying it to the MCU.
Oh, there's a spoiler credit scene ties it to the MCU.
It officially ties it to the MCU.
Don't tell me.
There we go.
I see it.
Yeah.
We have Spider-Man coming up.
We've got Spider-Man coming up. Eternals coming up. What was the other one I'm thinking? Anyway, so we've got Marvel stuff coming up. We've got a lot of cool movies coming out. So we'll be talking about those. We'll have reviews on GeekyKOOL, and
also,
hopefully we'll be reviewing some here still.
Yeah. Also, if you guys haven't seen What If on Disney, go see What If on Disney.
What If is great.
I thoroughly enjoyed it to the point of no return. We watched all the episodes. I think we're going to probably get them all together this weekend.
It's pretty great when the only beef that I have with that show is that it's not an hour long.
That's the only problem.
So it's a little rushed, but other than that, it's wonderful.
I agree. I've not seen them all. I think of a couple episodes back, but I'm waiting on my son to watch.
If anybody watched the season finale and they're wondering where this
Larry has it.
Okay, so there's Gamora is in it.
Yeah.
There's a Gamora scene in there where he picks up Gamora and whatever. That was supposed to be the 10th episode for season 1. Due to COVID, they ended up pushing it to season 2.
So
that whole little storyline will make sense next year sometime.
All right.
That doesn't give you. That's not a spoiler. It's just like there's a scene with her.
It's all over the trailer.
Yeah,
so
it's a scene
right.
with her, and it's like we have every like you have all these other characters, and there's a scene with her, and you're like, where'd she come from? What's she doing there? Like
right, because we don't see her in
any of the other
episodes. Right. So yeah, looking forward. I loved What If. Went back in the 80s. It was based off a comic book that you would tell these other alternative stories. What if Uncle Ben hadn't died? What if all these things? What if Magneto had led the X-Men? And you've got all this. I always love those stories.
I think it's probably one of my favorite MCU things. Like I really loved it a lot. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Again, if you haven't watched all of the Marvel stuff that's on Disney that they've released this year, you should go watch it. Loki was amazing. And so because in WandaVision was like really cool.
Yeah.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier, of course. All of those are leading up to the shows, and they're supposed to all tie into shows, and it's a continuation. I like that Disney's doing that because I feel like sometimes movies can be so rushed.
Right.
And I like that they're doing this now. So like these stories that are side stories that have nothing to do with like the main big bad guys are being told, but they're being told in their own like genre or their own way. So if you guys haven't checked those out, please do so. It's worth the Disney Plus subscription.
It is. We're going to have more Star Wars stuff coming up. We do have Star Wars. I don't know if you guys have seen the Star Wars anime.
We've watched a couple of them.
Yeah, I do like that also. So
I like the Ronin one.
Yeah. So that's really something we'll have to talk about also. But
we're gonna have to go.
We are. We can't hold your time forever, so we're gonna have to go. But we'll be back next week to talk about more geeky stuff. We don't know what yet, but something. We'll talk something that because you never know with us.
You don't. It's whatever comes.
Sometimes we don't know with us either, and that's okay. So.
Well, while you guys are out looking at geeky stuff to look at and listen to, and people who are knowledgeable or in my case not knowledgeable but opinionated,
you're very knowledgeable.
Go check out some of our friends on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all of that. We have several of them. We're going to mention them now. I'm going to try to do this a little faster than I usually do it, so be prepared.
All right, I'm ready.
We have the OzPod Gals, and they are going to be Thursday nights at 6 p.m. on Facebook. Sometimes they're live, sometimes they're pre-recorded, but they're always entertaining, and they're super funny. And if you like to look at beautiful girls who are nerdy, these two will fit that bill. Then we have our Nerd Informant friends. That's Tim and Josh over at Nerd Informants on YouTube and Facebook as well. And they are going to give you all kinds of information. They get some really cool interviews, and they are just wonderful guys. Be sure to go check them out. If you go to these sites, if you go to Facebook, give them a like. If you go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, comment, share, all of those things. Lets us know what we're doing, that you like what we're doing. And plus, it helps get that up there on the algorithm so other people can see what we're doing. Speaking of the Nerd Informants, they have a Facebook page just for you. This is a Facebook page where everyone can add cool geeky stuff, and that is called the Nerd Informants Beyond. So check that out. Go ask some questions, share some memes, put on your theories of all kinds of fan theories. They will allow everything that is nerdy to be put on there. So be sure to check that out. We also have our friends Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube. They are very knowledgeable. They're a little bit more adult friendly than kid friendly, but just put on the earphones and let the kids play around you and they won't know any different. But they are so great, and you guys would so enjoy it because they get some really amazing scoops, and they know everyone. Gary knows everyone.
Everybody.
And Keith knows almost everyone. So they know everyone, and they know all kinds of inside stuff. Speaking of Keith has his own show over on the Fat Steven Seagal channel over on YouTube, and it's called Keith Chimes In, and that's Mondays at 3 p.m. And he was talking about Babylon 5. I don't know if he still is. I feel like he might be. Last time I checked, he was.
Yeah.
But that, I'm sure he probably has some updates because of that announcement of the remake and everything. I'm sure he's got some opinions on that. But go check him out and give that channel hit the subscribe button, give it a like, share, all of that stuff. Then, see, we have lots of friends. We do.
We love our friends.
And speaking of loving our friends, this is the Scallywag over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And Shmoo is, hopefully, we keep saying it, but we've had such medical problems going on and stuff. But our goal is to have him be doing some more videos very, very soon. So be sure to check him out. I'm on there sometimes. Sometimes he's by himself. Sometimes he has D. But check out some of the older videos because they're amazing. And then you guys can check us out. Now, like Professor said, we have our own website. It's GeekyKOOL.com. Right now, we're having a little bit of an issue that tells you it's not secure, but it is secure. But it's just like Professor did something wrong. It's okay.
I did. Blew it up. Blew it up.
Be sure to check that out because we have amazing contributors like John and Ashley and Morgan, and I don't want to name them all because I'll forget somebody and then everybody will be offended. That's not my job. But they will tell you all kinds of things. They will put list on there, anime, movies, reviews. Professor puts trailers and all kinds of stuff. And do you want to do your thing for GeekyKOOL? He does it so much better than me.
He's great at it. So.
You can see all of that over at www.GeekyKOOL.com, your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
Thank you, Shmoo. Well, with that, thank you all for joining us today. For those that are going to be watching it later, we do appreciate you. And we will see you next week. Stay geeky, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.